Another episode of The Upgrade. I'm Gary Muttley. He is
Len Carmichael, coming to you from the basement today. I was in the car, but now I'm in the basement.
the legendary basement.
It's like Ulu Dog, the legendary taste. Okay, so let me tell you this. I was sending you guys the pictures. London started drinking the drink. Hated the drink.
Oh, really?
Never finished it. He tried it. He drank he does not like food. Like today, he got tricked into trying macaroni and cheese again. He hates noodles. Like
really?
He cannot. I think it's the texture.
Okay.
So as soon as the texture hits his tongue,
I'm still surprised because you don't hear many kids that hate macaroni and cheese.
As soon as the texture of a noodle hits his tongue, he's like gagging. So he tricked him into that. But he will try almost any drink you give him. It does not matter. He'll look at it, and as long as it doesn't smell rank, he'll try it. He'll drink whatever you give him. So he tried this Ulu Dog, and he's like it tastes kind of good, but I don't think I like it.
Wow. Well, I saw you post the picture of it, and then you said you were saving it for him, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
But now we got to tell the story of Ulu Dog.
The legendary taste.
So, once upon a time, many years ago, if you don't know, I have another band. I don't want to say former band because technically we do still exist even though we're not doing anything, and I will not. We're one of those things that just will rise every couple of years and do something and then disappear back into the depths. But I had a band called Mickey's Crew, and many years ago we went to record at the old Landmine Studios, which was in Patterson, New Jersey. Scenic Patterson, New Jersey.
God. That old studio was so rough.
And I mean scenic if you like crackheads.
Getting shot.
and getting weapons waved at you. So we went at one point to the store around the corner, and their selection was, let's say, limited.
It was ethnic.
Yeah.
Turkish, to be exact.
Yeah. So, being adventurous like we were, somebody ended up grabbing a bottle of some random beverage.
It was Mike. It was Mike. Mike grabbed the Ulu Dog.
Mike grabbed the bottle of Ulu Dog, and we were like, "What's Ulu Dog?" I don't know.
It says, it looks like it says legendary. I guess it's the legendary taste.
Well, no, it actually said on it the legendary taste.
Oh, did it say?
Yeah.
Okay, because on this one it says it in Turkish, and I can make out the first word being legend, but I don't know what the rest is because I don't speak.
I think it was all in Turkish, but like the one bit of English on it said the legendary taste, if I remember right. Mike can probably correct me on that if I'm wrong, but that was what it was. Now, keep in mind also, to rewind, earlier that day, 10:30 in the morning, we're driving from Westchester down to Landmine Studios in scenic Patterson, New Jersey. And we had two cars, and I think I was riding with Eric, the drummer, and Mike was riding with Tim, the guitar player. And if you don't know Mike, I can't call him a singer. He's not a singer. He's the guy that just has the microphone and screams a bunch of shit. So, because I don't want to dignify him with the title of singer, because he is definitely not. Anyway, so we're driving in New Jersey at 10:30 in the morning, and Tim in his pickup truck is in front of us, and Mike out the passenger window just points out to the White Castle that's coming up. and then I give them a thumbs up, and then our two vehicles swerve across 3 lanes of traffic and whip it into this White Castle, and we proceed to consume a lot of White Castle at 10:30 in the morning.
It was necessary.
And when you combine that with lots of beer and Ulu Dog,
and a toilet that barely works,
Landmine Studios smelled like somebody should have stepped on a landmine.
It smelled like somebody did step on a landmine, and there was just body parts rotting.
It smelled like a zombie covered in shit sitting out on a summer porch in a heat wave.
See, what the listeners can't possibly understand is the absolute destruction that was the bathroom before you guys even got in there.
Well, let's also point out, by the way, that our group, while not as sizable as the Billy Club gentlemen, we're also a sizable bunch. So factor that weight into it.
But the bathroom itself literally was a scene out of Saw. I mean,
barely.
Let's put it this way. It was so messed up that one night Jay decided that it would be a better plan to shit in a plastic bag stuffed in a Tom turned upside down than to go shit in the toilet downstairs. That's how bad that bathroom was. Because, like, in the winter, they didn't have enough heat in the building, so the pipes would freeze. So everybody would pee in this toilet, and it would just be icy piss with turds sitting on top. Because you couldn't flush it. Could not flush it. And then in the summer, it would sometimes back up. And just, like, it was just always a nightmare scene in there. They've since torn the building down, thank God.
I'm shocked.
I'm not, but it should have been condemned when we were there.
Sarcasm level extreme.
Let's put it this way. That was 2003.
Yeah.
Maybe 2004 at the latest. So if that building still existed now, 20 years later, it wouldn't even have walls. It would just be...
They were better off tearing it down.
Yeah. But, you know what? I did a lot of records in that building, and some of which ended up on that top 20 most underground thing. I was actually looking around. I have the Sign with Hate backup discs literally on the floor.
Wow.
I still have them. And I still have the backup discs for the Shattered Realm thing. Like, I still have these things that got called out. It was just pretty cool. Anyway.
That's wild. But yeah, I'll also mention being a group of sizable gentlemen. One of the things that you worry about is when you get a place that has stairs that look like they're going to collapse. Because being a sizable gentleman, the chances of you collapsing them are much, much higher.
Yeah.
So we were a little bit nervous climbing the steps to go into that spot.
Well, the steps were to set the table for those listening.
The outside steps.
The steps were on the outside of the building, and they didn't really have a rail to the left. Nope. So to be sure, you had to kind of lean against the building, but you're still trying to carry equipment up these stairs.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that also. It's bad enough to go up and down those stairs, but you're also carrying heavy equipment.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I would argue that the stairs weren't really truly connected to anything except for the top landing and the bottom. That's it. They were not attached to the building all the way up.
I could certainly see that.
And it was always a harrowing experience, especially moving things in and out of there alone.
Oh God!
Literally, I used to carry Mesa cabinets up those stairs alone, and it was scary. So,
I mean, that's scary just thinking about you might get clipped.
Yep.
You know?
I was just like, you know what? I always said I'm gonna drop the cabinet before I'm gonna drop myself. So if I feel like it's going, the cab's going, not me. But I don't miss that place. I do not miss that place at all. The only thing that I would argue that I missed about it has been fixed by having the current landmine, which is that it's a place to go and it's not in my house.
Yeah.
Because trying to run a studio in your house means that there is no separation from the work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's always difficult. Anyway.
As per usual, we got started talking before we set up the show. So we're going to join the show in progress. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the Simone Biles thing.
Oh, yeah. The actual video of him saying it.
I just felt like it would be a little bit better to take a back seat, work on my mindfulness, and I knew that the girls would do an absolutely great job, and I didn't want to risk the team a medal for kind of my screw-ups because they've worked way too hard for that, so I just decided that those girls need to go in and do the rest of the competition.
So, to me, like, because I'm pretty good at reading between the lines and understanding the things that are going on around it, Simone Biles is by far, like, she's only 4 foot whatever, maybe 5 foot even. I mean, she's little. Yeah,
well, all those gymnastic girls are like that.
Head and shoulders and another body above all these other women that are out there doing gymnastics, and they're consistently underscoring her for techniques that nobody else is able to pull off. So based on what she just said as to why she was pulling out, basically that she didn't want to hold the team back, she knew that she was going to get underscored and potentially cost the team a specific type of medal or whatever.
Right.
So she was just like, you know what, I'm pulling out because they're fucking with my money and I'm out of here. And you know what? I don't blame her. Like,
no, I don't blame her either.
Nobody should have to, like, it's not her fault that she's fucking amazing, and she shouldn't be penalized for being able to do things that other people. Imagine if you had a sport, you're like, okay, well, I've got the greatest pitcher that has ever played. Every time he goes out, he throws a no-hitter. It's not like they're going to change the game to keep him from throwing no-hitters. It's not his fucking fault. He's the goddamn greatest. Like, why are they doing this to this young lady? And the only thing I can think of is they don't like the fact that she's black and that she's that damn good. They can't take it.
Well, the other part that I've seen mentioned also is the fact that she, I think, is the only girl that was involved in that whole sexual abuse scandal with the gymnastics people that is still in competition, which just adds another element to this whole
another layer. Of course. I can see that.
Yeah, I'm not fully read up on the whole situation, but everything that I've heard is just bad. And if no matter what variable you include in it, whether it's race, whether it's the sexual abuse scandal, or even the COVID bullshit that's going on with the Olympics right now.
Yeah.
It's just disastrous from beginning to end. And the whole thing with doing it to protect the team, like, what the fuck is going on over there?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any damn sense to me. I mean, I understand, and if that's what she feels like she needed to do to feel better about where she was mentally, then I fully support her choosing to do it. But we all know, and I mean, I know you're not really up on her in general, but you've heard that she's really fucking good.
I mean, I'm definitely aware of her I think I've mentioned this before. I used to be really into the Olympics when I was younger, especially as a kid. Like, I remember the 1980 Olympics, the 1984 Olympics, the winter and the summer.
Right.
And I was more into watching like track and field stuff and things like that. Gymnastics was not really my thing, although I used to see it a lot just because back then I was living with my mother, and my mother was really into watching that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really into the Olympics like that at all, for that matter. Like, I don't really care, but I recognize a good athlete when I see one.
Right. Well, I used to be really into it, and now it's impossible to be into it because they spread it across all these different channels and streaming services, and combine that with the time difference. It's impossible to watch like any of this shit.
Right.
Because half of it is on these pay streaming services. It's split on like 4 or 5 different services, and a couple of them are pay services. So it's like, unless you have them, you're going to pay extra just to watch the Olympics. No
way.
And who knows even what event is on what service. Like, it's impossible to keep track of. And I'm not nearly as interested in it as I was back then. So I don't really care. Although I will say again, I don't understand how you're banning people for smoking marijuana and then skateboarding is an Olympic sport. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say that the two of them go hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
so on a tangent,
yeah,
that we typically will talk about, every state in the last week has reported COVID cases rising again. Every single state.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Never would have guessed. And they've already started to change the restrictions back, as people have been predicting. You, I think, being one of them.
So one of the things they're saying is that if people were vaccinated, this would be far less of a problem. But enough people have chosen, with their God-given American right, to not get vaccinated because it's not mandatory. And I'm not saying it should be mandatory. But due to the amount of people who have opted out, it's a fucking problem again.
Well,
and it's not just a problem for the people who are unvaccinated. It's technically a problem for even vaccinated people.
Well, see, that's why I've had issue with this whole idea, and Biden was one of the first people to say it. Now I hear other people repeating it, that it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's bullshit. Because the fact is,
it could be anyone.
There are plenty of people that are vaccinated that still will get it. In many cases, they won't show symptoms, but they still have it and can still transmit it.
Yep.
So this whole idea of it being the pandemic of the unvaccinated is a bunch of horse shit, and it really ticks me off because it's just completely inaccurate.
The wording of it is inaccurate.
Yeah.
I believe, for me, in my opinion, and I've gone down this opinion a few times, that if we had a larger number of vaccinated people, there would be less people to cause the spread. Not saying that people who are vaccinated wouldn't potentially have it or pass it, but the infection rate would be significantly lower.
Right.
And that's the problem I have with it. The amount of people who have opted out leave us vulnerable in ways that we would not have been vulnerable otherwise if more people had not been digging their heels in. That's all I have to say about it. Like,
right.
If people weren't fighting against actual scientists and not just going by bro science and going by what their friend who never even fucking graduated high school said, we might be in a different position. That's all.
Right.
Like
well,
am I wrong to technically err on the side of actual scientists? I don't feel wrong by doing that. I know that it's government subsidized and they have their hands in this, but in most cases, they're not going to put the problem in the cure when the problem affects everyone. If it was something that only affected a certain segment of the population, I might be a lot more on board with that. But the fact that this is worldwide and affects technically everyone, including children, but not children as much. But that's a side note.
Right.
If you're an adult, even an older teenager, you're playing with fire. And it's your choice to play with it. But I just hate the fact that your choices are encroaching on me. That's where your choices affect me, not necessarily you, but you as in the grand total you.
Well, here's my issue, and I've talked about this before. I understand why a lot of people have issue with the vaccine. And in some cases, yeah, it's because you're a Trump idiot. But I know plenty of people who have issues with it, and it has nothing to do with Trump. And I've detailed before about why I understand the trust issues that people have, because there's a long history of distrust. Well, there's a long history of things that create distrust with the government. And I often cite 9/11 and them saying, oh, no, the air down there is fine. And it wasn't.
It definitely wasn't.
We can go back, and it's obviously more race-based, but a lot of people will talk about experiments on African Americans and things like that over the years, and issues with.
But that's
health issues.
Exactly to the point I made.
Okay.
Is that where in cases where you're talking about finite, specific amount of people, I trust the government far less. But when it's a worldwide pandemic, there is no way that all the governments of the world are all in cahoots when we know that none of them get along. So if everybody is at the point where we have agreed that there is a fucking problem going on, and there's a minor stint for the solution, and the fact that we hoarded the solution. Like, we hoarded the fucking solution. We could have helped.
But
so
at
many
the same
more
time, so many people distrust the government. And I still say, even though there's no logic to it at all, the idea that Trump people are anti-vaccine just doesn't make sense, because he was the one that helped make it happen.
I agree.
But I think that works both ways, because now I think a lot of people don't trust it because of Trump's involvement. And meanwhile, Trump's, people who are 100% down with Trump are also rejecting it, which doesn't make any sense. That I see no logic to at all. And I'm not saying that it's all. I understand the concerns. I'm not saying that they're totally 100%. I'm not saying I agree with them, but I understand why these people have these concerns. And the truth of the matter is, I just think it's a real fucked up situation, and it sucks. And a big reason why it sucks and why we're fucked is because it wasn't handled properly in the first place. And that, if I have anger in any direction, it's that, because that is where, and that goes for anything. Listen, look at the first 48 You know what I mean? Right after a crime is committed, those first 48 hours are crucial when it comes to investigation. With something like this, those early moves would have been crucial. Trying to get ahead of it would have been crucial. And now we're long past that shit. And I think the reality is there's a lot of people that have different reasons why they don't want to take the vaccine. And I don't give a shit if you're offering them fucking Yankees tickets or if you're offering them tickets to the zoo. All this crazy shit that they're trying to pull out to get these people to go get it. If they haven't gotten it by now, they probably aren't going to get it. Like, everybody seems to hold on to this thing. And maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me. I don't claim to be a fucking know-it-all. I'm just a dummy with a microphone in the Bronx. But I think by now, if they haven't gotten it, I don't think you're going to convince them to get it, whatever their reasons are. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I don't know if they. I
just think, like I said, the whole situation is fucked up, and it was fucked up because it wasn't handled properly from the beginning. And I think now it's so widespread because here's where you're going to continue to run into problems. You've started to let up on certain things. I was talking to my brother about this earlier. You're starting to let up on things. And now you can't shut things down again. You're going to have riots because at this point, these people have taken such a beating with their businesses. So many of these people didn't survive this far. You're going to tell them that they got to close up again. And it doesn't matter what science you have, because in the end, it's survival mode for them. Because if they're lucky if they made it this far, you can't ask them to try their luck again. So if you start trying to shut things down again, you're going to get tremendous amounts of resistance, way more than before. Am I saying they're right? No, but it's a fucked up situation. I don't think there is a right or wrong in this case. I think no matter what happens, it's going to be messy.
Well, I know my company, we talked about it today in a big meeting, that they're going full steam ahead with the plans to reopen in mid-September, September 14th specifically. Right. But there was a caveat. The statement was, we're planning to go forward unless new information comes forward that makes it seem like it's not a good plan, and then we will readjust as necessary. Again, my company has been virtual since March 9th, 2020. Us staying virtual isn't going to affect business. The problem will be the product we sell may not be available to sell in the way that we typically sell it. Right. So there will have to be some sort of adjustment again, but they've shown to be nimble and agile and able to create opportunities where they did not believe opportunity existed before.
Right.
I understand that we are a large company and that making these moves is easy for your pizza shops and your small hardware stores and any other type of mom and pop shops that can't compete with, you know, a Domino's delivery service or a Home Depot drop it at your doorstep situation. Them shutting down is definitely going to be probably the nail in the coffin.
Right.
Because they're already on the skids and they're just getting back to normal. And if they got to shut down, it's going to be bad. But we've been saying it's going to be bad the whole time.
Absolutely.
And we've just been pushing that bad date further and further out.
Absolutely. And by the way, we don't disclose what type of work we do, but I will say, and I think this has come up before, that we do work in almost the same field. And I've been in a lot of meetings lately talking about what you were talking about, the idea of coming up with another way to deliver what
deliver the product.
Yeah. And there's a lot to consider, but there's some urgency to it simply because this is the way the world is going. And also in the back of everyone's heads, it may need to be a rush job because otherwise we can't continue to function the way we currently do.
So, with the Spanish flu of 1919, it took 2.5 years for them to really pull out of that. And that was precipitated then right by the stock market crash, was like literally right after that.
Right.
This is honestly mirroring that completely. We said that again right at the beginning of this show a year plus ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That the way the things are shaping up, it's going to take that kind of time, and we're going to have that kind of economic impact. I'm not surprised. I'm not happy about it. I don't want to cheer about being right. That's not what I'm here for. I just wish that the people who think they know what's going on could open their eyes to the things that are actually happening.
Yeah.
And that's on both sides. That's not just, I'm not just saying about the vaccination or this, that, or the other thing. Nobody is paying attention to the whole fucking thing.
Right, because honestly, not to knock the two of us, but with the position that we're in, if we're seeing some of these things, somebody somewhere should be seeing these things too.
They should have seen these things the whole time.
Yeah.
We should, us idiots, and I take the term idiot as a term of endearment, should not be this right this often.
Exactly. If
it
we can see it coming, and we're just two schmucks with internet and some studio equipment, there's no reason why. And not to feed conspiracy theories or whatever. Maybe there are some people that don't want to see it. Because
there are always people that don't want to see it.
We could take that in a whole other direction, talking about climate change and stuff like that, because there's plenty of people that don't want to see it, whether it's because of their own agendas with money or whatever. I will say this also regarding the vaccine. Watch very closely what is happening in New York City, because Mayor de Blasio announced today that they want to make it mandatory for all city workers to be either vaccinated or tested weekly. Or maybe he announced this yesterday. Either way, unions are not going to be happy with that. There's going to be definitely resistance, especially the police union. Because I have heard on various news outlets that there were already fairly, I don't want to say low vaccination rates, but lower than some comparable demographics, let's say. Mm-hmm. Which de Blasio tried to explain in the sense that they're talking about their own vaccine setups. So they might have gotten vaccinated outside of that network and they weren't required to report it, but that sounds like some serious doublespeak to me.
Right.
Bottom line,
well,
you're going to get unions resisting this because immediately after that was announced in his morning press conference, I was getting alerts about that. And then shortly after that, I think California was going to require all municipal workers to do that.
Well, I noticed that Biden says that he's going to announce that that there's going to be a vaccination requirement across federal government.
Right. They had said that was something that was being considered, so I wouldn't be surprised if that now that's moving forward. But you're going to see resistance to this. And as I said before, I understand why some people are hesitant about it. I think there's also issues when it comes to mandating it. And one of the issues that's come up a lot is the idea that it's still emergency use. It's not a fully authorized vaccine. There's already dispute as to whether New York City can do that because in a roundabout way, Governor Cuomo kind of said that it would require a mandate from the state or some sort of executive order from the state. So there's a lot of confusion about it already. And if you don't know, the Mayor de Blasio of New York City and Governor Cuomo of New York State fucking hate each other.
Yeah.
So they're always back and forth. Just to give you an example, they did the press conference yesterday, because it was yesterday that the announcement was made. I made a mistake before. They did the press conference yesterday. They were both in the Bronx, within a couple of blocks away from each other, and couldn't be bothered to do a joint conference.
Of course not.
So that's, that's standard vibe for the way things work in New York State and New York City. But as I said, you're going to see resistance. You're going to see a lot of back and forth with unions and stuff like that. And it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. And I think that will be, as I said, right after that announcement was made, then you start to see other cities looking, and the federal government even, looking to do that. And you're going to see the resistance will take hold also, and you'll see New York, and people will hate me for it, but New York is the trendsetter when it comes to a lot of things. You can deny it, but it's true. So New York is going to lead the way there also, where you're going to see resistance, and as that resistance happens, you'll see how that goes, and everywhere else will follow suit. So it could get very interesting. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mess. I'm just gonna say that right now. It's already been a mess.
Well, it's already it's long been a mess, and as I said, and I'd love to be wrong, but this is my take on it. I firmly believe that we're in deep shit, because no matter what we do, the fact that we didn't tackle this thing head on and it was allowed to spread so far for so long, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So no matter what happens, it's going to be messy. And and also, by the way, listen, one of the reasons why people hate de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, is because besides him being just a complete doofus, if you look and see, he had a ticker tape parade. He's planning all these concerts in the 5 boroughs. Again, much like Cuomo, it's like we're celebrating this thing and the shit ain't over.
Yeah, it's not over yet.
So what the fuck are we having these concerts for? And they're not even thinking it out. straight because they're planning these concerts, and they announced that it's going to be vaccination only. But they're announcing these concerts as family concerts, so of course, one of the reporters, because they take questions at the end of the end of the press conference, one of the reporters is like, "Oh, hey," because they've been pushing these things as like, "Oh, a big family-friendly concert event, blah blah blah," and then somebody said, "Oh, well, if it's vaccination only, does that mean that since younger children can't get vaccinated, they're not going to be allowed?" And then de Blasio's like, we'll release more details later on, because he was caught out there. It's like you're pushing the thing as a family-friendly thing, and then like, oh shit, nobody realized that like children under, I forget what the age bracket is, but like children under 12. Yeah, it is 12. Children under 12 can't get the vaccine. So it's not exactly a family-friendly event because you can't bring children there.
Right.
It's an all-ages show that's no longer an all-ages show. But as usual, things aren't thought out correctly, so it's a mess.
I mean, that's honestly with everything since we first found out about COVID in general. Nothing has been thought out. It's just been haphazardly thrown in every direction.
Yeah. But again, and I've been very critical of Cuomo about it, writing that stupid book, which they're still not fully investigating where the money from that book is going, because I think that's some real crooked shit. But again, you got this guy out there trying to pat himself on the back and have this big concert and yay, everybody celebrate, but the fucking thing ain't over, man. What are you celebrating? But it's this push to like reopen everything, because let's face it, it's desperation, because like I said, you can't continue to keep these things closed. People are dying, not because of COVID, they're dying because literally their way of making money is gone. These people with businesses, these businesses are dying. And that's whole life savings down the drain. Somebody says, I want to open a restaurant, pours their whole life savings into it, and then the shit is closed because of all this mess.
Yeah, again, as a business owner, I'm lucky to be running a business that does not anymore require that your band really needs to be there. Like, there is enough reasonably priced equipment on the market that anybody could afford to get to record themselves at home if that was what needed to be done. I'm lucky enough to be running a business like that. If I was running a sandwich shop, if I was running, a home hardware store, or, a dog grooming business, or anything where it's like you have to be there to do it, and you cannot run it on the internet, yeah, it would definitely be a real kick in the dick.
Yeah, and that's the situation that a lot of people are in. And I think it's stupid to have parades and shit about it, but as much as I'm not happy about it, but I can understand the desperation that people have to want to keep things open and not close things up again. At the same time, as I said, I understand people's hesitancy when it comes to the vaccine. In some cases, I think the Trump people are stupid, and that's that. But I think there's other valid reasons besides, like, where Biden didn't win the election. And again, there's just no logic to it anyway, because Trump was the one that was patting himself on the back for getting the vaccine thing together. So go get the Führer's vaccine. He made it happen for you.
So
well, that's
while we've been talking, I've been poking around on the internet, and I found some of that stuff on the testimony that you were talking about.
Oh yeah. So today the whatchamacallit,
some officers gave
testimony to the congressional. Why am I forgetting what the actual name of it is?
The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack. So, the House Select Committee.
Yeah. So you had the committee, and you had the first testimony for the committee, which was a bunch of Capitol police officers who suddenly, despite all these people saying back to blue, they're not backing these guys. When there's video of them getting crushed by mobs of fucking people. I will say, and let me send you this video. There was a police officer that testified today that had one of the best quotes ever. He was asked by Representative Andrew Clyde, he was asked by somebody else, I forget exactly who it was, in regards to a comment that Representative Andrew Clyde had made comparing the insurrection to a normal tourist visit. And his response was, if that's what American tourists are like, I can see why foreign countries don't like American tourists.
I mean...
Oh, so good.
Is he wrong?
No. But it was just so perfect. I was so entertained by it. And this was after he was asked.
I just listened to it real quick. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. And this was after he was asked about the idea that some people are referring to these people as terrorists, but other people shy away from that. And he actually read the description of terrorism, I guess, from whatever manual or whatever guidance they have. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely perfect. And it fits perfectly. And it's just, here we are still in denial about this shit. But here he is reading the definition. I'll send you that also. Because that's just perfect as well. And it's just, why are these idiots even still arguing about this? Like, why do we have to have a committee? It's so obvious that there were so many things happening that were so bad. But then you've got this other idiot from the state of New York, who I don't claim this moron, making statements blaming Nancy Pelosi for January 6th. Are you kidding me?
No. I mean, just that whole situation is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, next level ridiculousness. Trying to rewrite what actually happened.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. And we've talked about this 1,000 times. Neither one of us are fans of Pelosi by any stretch.
But can't stand her.
But
she's done so many things that make me angry, whether it was that stupid photo op with the African garb.
Yeah, that was
or whether it was ripping up the paper behind Trump just to make a spectacle. Like, I think she's just an idiot. And I can't stand her for that, and I can't stand her because she's a millionaire. She has all these stock options, like all these stocks and all these different things. She's making money off of being in government, because that's what a lot of these people do. And that's why when we talk about how we kind of follow the progressive side of things, that's one of their biggest things. They want to get this money out of government, because so many of these people have business interests and stuff like that that feed off of their role within politics. So they're just it's insider trading is what it is. It's a combination of insider trading and just straight bribery, because those are the people that also donate to their campaigns and get preferential treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's insider trading because you've got stock in these different companies or ownership in these different companies, and then you know what's going to happen because you're an insider, you're in the government. So you know what regulation is being voted on. Not that there's much regulation anymore anyway. So all these people make a ton of money off this shit. And she's one of the biggest offenders.
Being in government is just a funnel for money, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. What you said is exactly right.
And by the way, just to show you how asinine the whole situation is, did you ever hear the whole thing about when AOC got voted in and she mentioned having trouble getting money together for a down payment on a place down there?
Mm-hmm.
And people were making fun of her. It's like, oh, well, let's make fun of the person that doesn't make enough money when you got all these millionaires. That's like some straight Stockholm Syndrome shit.
Yeah, like
you got these people that are making a ton of money, and then you're gonna make the one that doesn't have money out to be an idiot, because that's you. You are one of those people. If you're not in the top 1%, you're probably one of those people that has, like, why is it so bad to have somebody that doesn't have a lot of money in government? Like, we're gatekeeping that shit now?
It's definitely not. But I would rather have everyone not have a lot of money, because I feel like those people might actually look out for others. And our government, the people who are persistently in there, are only looking out for their own pockets.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's the way the whole system is rigged. But at the very least, you could tax these people a decent amount. But again, we don't do that because all of their friends are the ones that control that.
Yep.
But back to that testimony, there was a lot of stuff. I had an article that came up early. Listen, Liz Cheney, let's go on record and say Liz Cheney is a piece of shit. She's always been a piece of shit. She's voted on a lot of things that are harmful to a lot of people in this country. And of course, mainly the people that don't have money, like what we're talking about.
Right.
But I will give her credit because she's been openly, vocally anti-Trump in every way. And there was an article that went up on CNN that...
Well, because he's antithetic to her interests. Despite him being the darling of the Republican Party currently, it's literally just because he puts butts in seats. It has nothing to do with his actual policy. And she is fully against him while still not being in any way not a Republican. You know what I mean?
Right. But
she falls into the never Trump, but still super Republican and super idiotic at the same time. But she's been right on a bunch of stuff about him.
Well, it's also the fact that most of these Republicans are complete bootlicking pussies, where they're just like, yes, Mr. Trump, whatever you say, Mr. Trump. And this goes back to the conversation that you and I had a couple of weeks ago about, does he still have power? That's why he still has power, because of people like that.
Sucking his D.
Yeah. And there's a lot of them in the government right now. There's a ton of them in the government right now that are totally on the dick. But, again, as much as I don't like Liz Cheney, I will give her full credit for actually having a spine and speaking up against this. And the CNN article that I just sent to Len, it says every Republican should be required to read Liz Cheney's opening statement.
Yeah, I'm going to read that after this. I can't read it and have a conversation, but I'm going to give it a read.
The bottom line of it is this. Liz Cheney did this, and there was some political risk involved, because then the Republicans removed her from a leadership position and all this other, because they're all a bunch of bootlickers, and how dare you step away from the hive mind. But she would have been better off staying silent for that. But she was very vocal about it, and I have to give her credit for that. So she gave an opening statement, and I'll read it because they quote it here, and it's fairly short, but it really sums up what's going on right now. Here it is. America is great because we preserve our democratic institutions at all costs. Until January 6th, we were proof positive for the world that a nation conceived in liberty could long endure. But now January 6th threatens our most sacred legacy. The question for every one of us who serves in Congress, for every elected official across this great nation, indeed, for every American, is this: will we adhere to the rule of law? Will we respect the rulings of our courts? Will we preserve the peaceful transition of power? Or will we be so blinded by partisanship that we throw away the miracle of America? Do we hate our political adversaries more than we love our country and revere our Constitution? Bang. Because that's what's happening now.
That is exactly what's happening.
That's what's happening now. All of these voter restrictions that are going on, all this other shit, it's all designed to whittle away at what is supposed to be the American institution. That's the reality.
It's easily just disintegrating in front of our eyes, and nobody is doing anything about it in any meaningful way.
No, and I'll say, as I've said before, the Democrats are just as responsible for the stuff that's going on, because you know what they're doing about it?
Fuck all.
Nothing. They have the power to step in and at least put up some resistance, and you don't really see any resistance, and that goes for a lot of the ones in power, including Mr. Biden.
Of course, but we all know that Mr. Biden ain't doing shit.
Oh, yeah. And just to rewind a bit, if you recall what happened in the primaries, and I will tie this all together. If you recall what happened in the primaries, you will remember that I believe it was Super Tuesday. Am I wrong?
I think you were right. You're right.
I think it was Super Tuesday when Bernie Sanders had a very strong showing. And before that, if you remember, even Pete Buttigieg won one of the primaries. I forget what state. And then immediately,
Biden's in the thing.
Everybody started dropping out. Buttigieg, who won a state, like, why would you quit when you won? I mean, granted, it was more states than he had planned. I don't think he expected necessarily to even win one state right away, but he was trying to build something. So the fact that he won one state was a big deal for him.
Right.
So why would you quit?
You know why he quit. I know why he quit.
Oh, I know. And that's what I'm getting at. He quit because the high-ups got nervous about Bernie and were like, okay, let's call everybody in and tighten things up because we need to have our guy in there. We'll
give you a position in the in the cabinet or somewhere high up.
Which they did.
You just need to back out. Out.
Yeah. We've got an emergency on our hands. we need you guys to help us because we can't let
one of you
people win. We can't let somebody in who's not
gonna do what we
who's
want
not
them to
our
do.
guy.
Yep.
We need to protect our interests, and their interests are not us normal folk.
No, not at all.
Their interests are corporations and shit like that. So that's why that all happened with the primaries, and that's why Joe Biden is president, because they got scared and pulled everything in. And all the troops, if you go back and look at it, all the troops all fell out. Everybody else who was running in a very short period of time
just
all dropped out. And suddenly it was only Joe Biden. It was only Joe Biden and Bernie. And then Bernie saw the fix was in and basically gave up again. Don't get me wrong. I'm not absolving Bernie in this either, because I think he's another one that should have had more balls. But that even goes back to the earlier election. But that's another story.
But he knew what he was up against.
Yeah. This time around, he knew what he was up against, and I think he knew it wasn't worth the effort. But then I'm a dick, because if it was me,
you'd have stuck it out.
I would have stuck it out, or if nothing else, I would have motherfuckered everybody on the way out, which could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. Because let's face it, I've done that at times with jobs that I've had, and it's probably not the best idea, but whatever.
Yeah,
I did it because sometimes I'm just that guy.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out. But that's my way, and yeah, I shouldn't expect everybody to be that way, but I kind of wish that Bernie was, just because I would like to see that. And I would like to see somebody with balls. And the only ones right now that we see with balls are people like AOC, some of the other progressives that are out there that are calling on people to be actually accountable for their shit. Because standard Democrats don't have balls. No.
Nancy Pelosi don't have no fucking balls.
None.
They're just towing the line for the standard. So that's the problem that we have. And when you see like all the stuff going on, whether it was the minimum wage thing or even this committee thing was a headache. But you don't see people fighting hard for stuff.
No, not at all.
AOC is one of the few that you actually see fighting hard for stuff, and then people make fun of her. It's like, why is it bad to want to hold people accountable for shit?
Because she's the easy target. She's young. She's brown. You know, people like to point out that she's not smart, but I would argue that to the death. She's definitely smarter. She's definitely smarter than I am. That I'm sure of. And I would argue that she's smarter than most of the people making fun of her. But that's what's going on.
Yeah, but let's face facts here. Look at some of the shit that some of these Republican people are saying, and then come to me talking about not smart.
Like, dude, you're preaching to the choir here.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying in general, like, people got a lot of shit to say, but really, talk to me about not smart. Talk to me what the dumb shit that some of these people say, like Raphael Ted Cruz, because I will always use his proper name. Fuck him. All these people say and do such dumb shit that whatever AOC does completely pales in comparison. I don't think she's perfect, and I'm sure she makes mistakes, because let's face it, she's young and she's new to this game. But honestly, I hope she doesn't become she doesn't start acting like the other ones.
I hope not.
I don't want her to. So yeah, she doesn't follow the system. Good. She shouldn't. Fuck the system. The system sucks. The system is why things are messed up. Fuck all that. But yeah, talk to me about stupid after listening to some of the dumb shit that these Republicans come out with. Whether it's this Boebert idiot or
the worst.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Worst. The absolute worst.
Yeah, all these people are just blatantly displaying their lack of intelligence and getting tons of support for it. So don't tell me that AOC's a dummy. Because she's still smarter than a bunch of these fucking idiots.
Yep.
Now I'm angry.
Angry?
Yeah. Well, I'm approaching Lewis Black level now, just because thinking about these idiots. It's just amazing how not only are these people complete idiots, but then you've got idiots that support these idiots, and it's just. I heard you like dumb, so we put dumb in your dumb.
Got you some extra dumb.
Got you extra dumb. And I just wonder how these people can walk and breathe at the same time. Anyway.
Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about today.
Yes. Because we're actually going to make this one short for once, people.
Yeah. I was never, and I'm still not, any sort of Slipknot fan. But
oh, yes.
We should definitely remark on the passing of Joey Jordison. Great drummer. My thing with Slipknot has nothing to do with him as a person or him as a skilled drummer. Great drummer.
Yeah.
I can leave that part out of the conversation. It's a huge loss for the metal community. It's a huge loss for drummers across the board because he inspired so many people to pick up drums. Definitely. And to not mention it on the show since we were doing it today, the day in which it was announced that he had passed away, would be short-sighted on our part.
Well, I come at it from a little bit of a different angle because I am actually a fan of Slipknot. I've seen them live a few times, going back to their early days when the first album was out, and you could see that they were building. I'm not a fan so much of their more recent stuff, but they had a couple of records. Like the first record was okay, but like the second record, Iowa, had some really good stuff on it. And those guys were also vocal about being influenced by a lot of old school thrash and death metal. Because I remember seeing them at Jones Beach one time, and he was shouting out bands like Obituary and Cannibal Corpse. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Because you can hear little tinges of that in their sound, especially with Iowa, because that was... the first record got them lumped in with all the new metal stuff. The second record, they started to branch out a little more. They were more like guitar solos and things like that. So,
right.
So you could hear the influences a bit more, and you could hear them kind of evolve. I lost interest a bit later on because some of the stuff started sounding a little too similar, a little too melodic, too similar to the singer's other band, Stone Sour. And to me, it's like, well, if I want to hear Stone Sour, I'll listen. But I think part of that also had to do with the songwriting, because Paul Gray, who was their bass player, had passed, and he apparently was one of their main writers. So I think his influence being gone definitely changed things for them, and I think that may have been what turned me off a little bit.
Right, losing that piece of the influence.
And when it comes to Jordison, he was out
He's been
around
out of the
that
band
same.
a while.
He was out around that same time, and they never really revealed
What the
issue was. But I always suspected that it may have had something to do with substance. That maybe they wanted to clean up after getting scared by Paul Gray dying,
Right.
and maybe Joey liked where he was at.
And
so I don't know.
You know, again, as we both know, not my business to be in. If that was the case, then you know that's him. That's on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't want to let the occasion go by without at least mentioning the unfortunate and untimely passing.
Yeah, it is a shame, and one of his shining moments wasn't even in Slipknot. If you ever look it up on YouTube, Metallica had to perform one time without Lars.
Yeah, and he filled in, right?
And he was one of a few drummers that filled in because Dave Lombardo did a song or two, and Joey did a few songs. And
yeah, I remember the Dave Lombardo piece because I was fully like, wow, that's what they could have actually sounded like.
Yeah, this is what Metallica sounds like with a good drummer.
With the drummer at all.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm sure I've said it on here before, but I was a kid in high school, and kids that played drums were talking about how terrible Lars was. And I know Phil Vibes is heartbroken when he hears that, and I don't care. Yeah, I mean, one of the things with them is a band is the sum of its parts. And sometimes you'll get a band that they may not be the greatest musicians. And Slayer is another example of this, because if you look at Slayer from a music theory point of view, there's a bunch of shit there that doesn't make sense. But It doesn't matter, because in the end, sometimes you just got to throw away the rules, and if it sounds good, it sounds good. And Metallica is one of those bands, because Lars is certainly not the greatest drummer,
but he makes that shit work.
But there's that chemistry that's there, and you can't deny it, and you can't knock it, because when you listen, and it's, you can debate different parts of their catalog or whatever, but there are some albums there. As I've said, I think Master of Puppets is as close to a perfect record as you're going to get. You listen to Master of Puppets, yeah, okay, musically it may not be perfect, but it's goddamn good. And it's very hard to match something like that. So, Jordison filling in for Metallica was a real highlight. So if you get a chance, look for it, check it out.
Check it out.
You will not be disappointed. But rest in peace to Joey Jordison. It's a damn shame. It's a big loss, and what can you say? You know, it sucks.
Yep.
But it happens. It's a weird thing, because especially for us being older, it's like we've been there from early on, and we see a lot of these bands kind of grow, and musicians grow and mature before our eyes. That dude's only a year younger than me. He's 46.
Yep, and he's only a year older than me, because I'll be 45 this year. He's right in the middle.
Yeah, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I know about the band fairly well, just because enough people around me have been interested in them for many years.
Yeah,
I just was never. My problem with the band was too many members. It was too busy for me. I always said
if they had
stripped down to just the 5 members, meaning drums, 2 guitars, bass, and vocal,
Yeah.
I probably would have been fully on board with it because I wouldn't have been distracted by all the other stuff going on. And I get that was part of their shtick. I think the clown suits and all that shit that they were wearing was also something that just turned me off when they first appeared.
Right.
It just was not for me. But they rode that shit till the wheels fell off, basically. And you know what? If you got something, you got lightning in a bottle, you fucking go with it. Just because Len Carmichael doesn't like it doesn't mean that it's not working. It just means that I don't like it.
No, well, listen, there are plenty of people out there, and I always say this, you hardcore kids, don't lie, because a lot of you like fucking Slipknot. And I've seen a few of you come out publicly on Facebook, but I see some haters out there, and I know you people, and I know you were listening to that shit back then, and I know I saw you at Roseland, so stop.
Yep.
Everybody starts somewhere. Most of us aren't suddenly born into hardcore. So we come from somewhere. I know plenty of people that were punk rock people or pop punk kids that discovered hardcore. So there's no shame. And you and I talked about this off air. Like, I don't believe in like guilty pleasures. Like, I like what I like. So there's no shame in being a Slipknot fan.
Oh, I'm certainly not making fun of anybody for being a Slipknot fan by any stretch.
I mean, Disturbed, okay, like there might be some shame there. But Offspring, yeah, maybe some shame. But
I'm
no.
I'm doing a record right now for the band Ripped Away from PA.
Yeah.
And Justin, their singer, Clemo, he is the hugest Godsmack fan.
Oh, no.
And and he tries to convince me that butt rock is good. And I'm just like, bro, stop now. You're just embarrassing yourself. I can't get down with this. Just stop. No.
I'm open-minded, but
I might be open-minded, but not that open. God damn it.
I'll listen to Winger before I listen to that shit.
Speaking of which, did you see that Frankie Chairs posted about planning to go to some big fest in Florida that's going on in 2022?
No.
Oh man! Wait, let me see this thing. Cause
I may have talked. Is it one of those with all the washed up?
Yeah, with like Winger and all the bands. Like,
I might have to. I might have to make that happen.
He posted it to. No, Sean Walsh posted it to Frankie, asking him if he had seen it, and Frankie's like, I don't know if I can make it through the whole thing. He's like, I don't think I could do 4 full days of this.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, there's some.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward it to you right now.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, I'm sure there's some whack stuff, but I'm sure there's some good stuff in there.
Well, now that it's on the way, you should be getting it right now.
Yep, there it is.
Day one. Bret Michaels and Night Ranger, Winger, Firehouse, and Steelheart. Saturday, Loverboy, Skid Row, Warrant, Bullet Boys, Enough's Enough. Sunday, D. Snyder, Dokken, Lynch Reunion.
Yeah, Dokken with
Slaughter.
Lynch is key.
Right. Slaughter. Last in Line, which I don't care. Faster Pussycat.
Last in Line is the guys that were in the original Dio band.
Okay.
And the singer's dude, Andrew Freeman, who used to sing for Lynch Mob with George Lynch. Their first record was actually fantastic.
Okay. And then
they started as just doing the Dio stuff, but then they started writing their own originals, and their own originals are actually really damn good.
Okay. And then the last day, Monday the 17th, Jackal, Lita Ford, Great White, Vixen, and Bang Tango.
Oh, I'll leave before the Monday.
The only thing on Monday that I would want to see is Lita Ford.
Yeah, same.
That's it. Otherwise, pass. Hard pass.
And that's a checklist thing because I've never seen Lita Ford.
Neither have I.
But yeah, like a few of these, like I'm not a Poison fan at all. So whatever for Bret Michaels, but I'm okay with Night Ranger. I don't mind them. Mm-hmm. They got a couple of songs. And Winger I like.
Talked about Firehouse.
Firehouse, yeah, whatever. Steelheart, same thing. Loverboy, whatever. Skid Row, Warrant, Bullet Boy's okay. Enough's Enough, Is Skid Row and Warrant like back in the day okay, but now with like the new singers, it's like whatever. Like I
literally whatever.
I saw them both with the OGs, so I don't really care. D. Snyder, whatever. Dokken, yes. Slaughter, last thing. But like, I don't know, if the price was right, I'd fuck with this. I'd leave before the Monday, but I might. And it's in Key West. Oh boy.
Yeah. I have a no Florida policy, so I can't go.
I forgot about your.
I mean, it's a strict
your love for the Sunshine State.
No Florida policy. Fuck right off with Florida.
Oh
so
man.
I can't go, though. Going seems like it could be fun. You know what I mean? Like I look at that lineup and I go, man, I see where I could have a good time with this. This doesn't seem like a bad time, but Florida. Put it anywhere else, and I'd be like, all right, I'm in. Like if that was in New York or in Philadelphia or New Jersey somewhere, or at the Jersey Shore, you tell me that's there, I'm going. I'm just gonna go just for the shits and giggles of it, just to get out of the house, put my mask on, and mind my damn business, and watch you drink a few beers, and sing along to some fucking awesome and terrible shit all at the same time,
and see some old leather.
Oh God,
walking around.
Oh God.
She blew Vince Neil back in 1983. Wow, 4,000 capacity venue.
Reasonable size.
Amphitheater. So it's not just like some festival on like a flat parking lot or something. It's actually a theater. So that's deal. Cool. I mean, January 2022. I don't know. I may have to consider this because honestly, for at least a couple of these bands, it might be the last chance. Because let me tell you,
if COVID don't get them before then,
let me tell you, I'm on record. George Lynch was part of the reason I started playing guitar. Don Dokken's voice, no. Don Dokken's voice is shot.
Oh, I'm sure.
Shot. I would still go see George Lynch, but like, I got my first concert they played, so I got to see them in the heyday. But I'll still go see some of these other bands. And I will say, some of them still put on. I've seen recent videos because a lot of these bands have started playing again. Some of them still put on good shows. Because Slaughter doesn't sound bad, even though I'm not a huge fan. Bullet Boys sound pretty good. Night Ranger actually sounds really good. They still play all the hits, and they still can actually sing and play, and they sound good. Same for Winger. So, I don't know. You might see me in Key West in January. We'll see.
Soaking up the rays, baby. Soaking up
the rays. Banged out with fucking Frankie chairs. Fucking pocket full of edibles.
This is my personal shout out to Frankie. I doubt he listens to the show, but he's wonderfully
he's an entertaining individual. And by the way, when I went to the Madball show at Reverb, I had a chance to chill with him for the first time in a long time, and I was very appreciative of that.
So Brian Yan from Philadelphia area, we like to call him the best worst person to hang out with, and Frankie falls into that territory. It's the best time, but you know you're gonna get yourself into some shit.
Oh yeah.
So it's the best worst thing.
Yeah. Well, it depends on your party level also, because we know a bunch of those type of people that they're fun to hang out with, but if you like to party, you gotta be very careful because they could party with the best of them. And if you're not bringing your A game, you might get swept under. But that's he's definitely one of those guys. But as I said, I got to chill with him, and I was very happy that I got to do that after all of this time and COVID bullshit, not being able to hang with a lot of people.
Well, he damn near died.
Yeah, that is true.
And now I'm starting to wonder, did he have COVID?
I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Wait, because it's all, a lot of that shit is very similar to what he ended up with.
That is true, and that happened before COVID was a thing, didn't it?
Well before, but that doesn't mean that it didn't exist well before people knew about it.
Of course. Well, we discussed our own experiences, so it's interesting. I may have to ask him about that. I hadn't considered that possibility.
And my statement about that is based and rooted in not understanding exactly what was wrong with him, other than the fact that he had really bad lung issues, like really bad sickness, and ended up really banged up in the hospital. Not to get into his medical history on our show, but it's generally public knowledge if you're friends with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty open about it on social media, so it's not like we're telling tales out of school here.
Right. But again, I don't want to talk out of turn.
It is an interesting thing to consider, honestly.
Like, was he not patient zero, but patient zero? Like, because it was so far ahead of the curve that nobody would have ever put two and two together.
Yeah, because that was way ahead. I don't remember
traveling.
exactly.
I mean, he's a traveling guy, and I mean, rest in peace. He was traveling with J Money. He was going all over the place. Yeah, they went to Puerto Rico. I forget where else they went, but they went. I think they went to Japan or somewhere in Asia.
I don't know.
I don't know, but this is something to talk to him about. Maybe we should have the show.
Yeah, I might reach out to him and see if he'll come on, because that's actually a very interesting discussion. I had never thought about that possibility.
Just popped in my head right now.
Yeah, I never did that math and put those things together.
I'd have to look at the dates, because obviously if it was like 2017, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, but I don't remember exactly when.
I just remember him being really fucking sick.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that, and he was in really bad shape for a while, and then he managed to make a full recovery, which everybody was very happy about.
I'm still persistently happy about it.
Yeah,
I'm happy anytime I show up and Frankie is at a show.
Yeah, he's a good dude, a lot of fun. Like I said, I got a chance to chill with him at Reverb after no shows for a long time, not being able to hang out with anybody for quite a while. But he actually, the last time I saw him was when we played together, because the last Billy Club show before COVID, he was there.
I want the story on how he got Chairs as his last name, and I'm sure I know why, but I want the full story directly from him. Don't tell me.
I don't know.
Mm.
So I think it's determined at this point that we're going to have to reach out to him and see if he'll come on. And we'll get some stories. because I'm sure that dude's got lots of stories.
Endless ones.
Well, listen, we all know when you're a party guy.
You got stories.
I'm a lot less of a party guy than I used to be, but when you're a party guy, you definitely got stories. Because I could tell. Well, there's some stories that I can tell from back in the day, and then there's some stories that I definitely cannot tell because I cannot incriminate certain people.
Cannot divulge.
Yeah. So, anyway. But, yeah. So, with that, that's it for the upgrade this week. Since we got to talk about a bunch of random things. But that's how we do sometimes. So, if you don't like it, then you don't like us. Too bad. I am Gary Muttley. He is Len Carmichael. We are the upgrade. And we'll see you guys again soon.
Peace.
Later.